flight from Newark is delayed. Ashwin was in Dallas, New York, Calcutta. And I freaked out saying, come what may, we have to get him. So both of us, Karthik and I, we were deliberating what to do. Google was showing me that the flight was to depart AI 144, was to depart Newark Airport at 2:25. The regular time is 1:45, which is India time around 12 o'clock, midnight, a little bit past that. It finally departed at 2:48 p.m. local, which was around 1:30 a.m. in India. Once it showed departed, I went back to my room because now we had control. And Karthik and I planned that they would land in Mumbai at around 2:50. So we had flights booked from 5, 7, 9, whichever flight we could get to get Ashwin here. More importantly, Karthik went up to Ashwin and said, this is the plan. And he said, come what may, I will go. Ladies and gentlemen, from New York to travel 38 hours to come to a conclave shows you one thing, simple thing, commitment. I'm not paying him, and I'm putting it on record. I'm not paying him. I had requested him in October, maybe September. If you remember, last year he was on a video link because he was playing for Chennai Super Kings and couldn't come. So he had joined us online. That day, I had requested him that come Trailblazers next year, you've got to be there physically, please, and talk cricket with us. One of my dearest friends, some people say he overthinks. I think he's one of the best thinkers of the game. Now you hear him every day on broadcast in his own platform. Perhaps the greatest bowler that India has seen in terms of impact, the number of matches that he's won. 550 wickets don't come like that. World Cup winner, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ravichandran Ashwin. And to do this panel, my dear friend, one of our cricket faces, someone who has grown with me over the last 4 years, well-traveled, just covered the World Cup, multiple World Cups, put your hands together for Shubhayan Chakraborty.
Well, this man needs no introduction. As Boryada said, he has achieved it all in his career. And I've seen him train closely in the last phase of your international career. I've always seen, we have been fascinated. We often discuss within our journalist group, standing outside the nets and watching you, that this man is different. He thinks differently. The way you were training in Australia also before you shocked us with your retirement in Brisbane. It felt like you were on to something. You were on a mission, but that mission never completed. Can you talk us about that, the Brisbane? We all were shocked what was going on in the dressing room before we saw that visuals of you and Virat sitting there. What was going through your mind? When did you decide to, call it quits from international cricket? And of course, your IPL retirement also gave us a bit of a shock that why suddenly?
Okay. I've been on a flight for a while. Thanks for the introduction, Boria. So let me just gather my thoughts before I say anything. Look, I think it's a long way back now. For me, I just move on the next day. I've decided something. I don't really hang on to what has gone by. I think the best thing that I can say about the whole episode and how it panned out and where I am right now is, since the day I called it quits, I haven't even, like, one of the amazing things about playing the game or playing anything at the highest level or whatever I accomplished was, when you go to bed on a particular night after you've achieved something or you failed, is that you think through it, you have dreams of it. It's just an amazing feeling. Several times you get wickets and those wickets are replaying in your mind as you go to bed, and that's the best tranquilizer you can have in your life. But ever since I said I'm done, I haven't had one day where I've had a cricketing dream at all. So that's probably the best thing that can suggest that I have no hang-ups or nothing caught past in the time. But for me to jog back my memory that far is quite hard now. Like I said, I've just moved on from it very, very quickly and rapidly. Sure, I didn't have to deliberate it for a lot of times. When I make my decision, I make it. And I don't really go back and forth. One of my strongest assets, I feel, is my ability to make decisions. Whether it's right or wrong is for people to debate, but at the end of the day, it's my life. I need to do it on my terms. The moment I think at Perth, when we had Jaddu and myself as the lead spinners in the side, and Washi played that game in Perth, and then the next game again I came in, and then I had to again make way, was kind of suggestive or indicative to me that my time was up. And if somebody else had to come and take up that place, by all means, they need their space and time. And I'm not one of those guys who will hang around, want to see if I can make a comeback. I've had far too many. I've come far too much in my life to be able to, dilly-dally around with all those things. And I work wonderfully well with clarity. And in my head, my clarity was done. So my time was up.
Fascinating. I mean, clear-cut decision-making, you move on. But, a lot of people say you overthink. I want you to tell, I know you've told me this story in the past, but I don't think any sport you can achieve as much as he has achieved if you don't really plan. And if you don't really obsess. You've got to be absolutely obsessive with some things. Can you tell me how you planned for Steve Smith? Because Ashwin and Steve Smith was something, he can do a PhD on Steve Smith. I really want you to tell my audience how you planned for Steve Smith for 6 months and the 2021 series.
Look, before we get there, actually, I want to talk about this overthinking bit, right? And sometimes what people label you with, or what people think of you, sticks with you. And very often we all make that mistake. We are in a generation where social media is of paramount importance, and people end up taking it way too seriously, because these are all keyboard warriors. These are all keyboard warriors who have no standing to be able to come and tell you something that's of any importance to you, where you can take it on board and then work on it. So I don't really read too much into it. But whoever be it, Boria, I mean, I've come, like I said, assuming that you're going to live 80 years, my 50% of my life is over. And to be able to think of how people labeled you, or what they got out of you, is something I've gone past. And if overthinking or thinking or intellectually obsessing about something is a negative point, and if it's something that people can't assimilate, I'm okay with that. And it's just my life, and I've made peace with it. And how many people get the gift or boon to be able to find their calling and obsess over their calling? And like I've always said, cricket is my calling. And if I can't obsess over it, if I can't think about it, then I'm in the wrong place. And like I said, even this morning I was talking to Karthik, who's been a friend or forte or a man Friday for me. One of the biggest problems we are encountered with today, and that I would indicate as a happiness quotient, is our inability to lead ourselves. Like, what is leading yourself? I believe by the age you're 20, you must at least get a hang of what you stand for. When I say X, Y, or Z as a name, you must know what you're standing for. Okay, I won't be late to a place. I commit to a place, I will get there on time. If I'm paid for something, I pay such that I lead for that title. I don't go there because I paid for my time. So for me, all these things are what you stand for, and somebody's inability to lead themselves cannot have an opinion on who I am, right? Because this is my life and it's very dear to me, and I want to lead it the way I want. And which is why I took it upon myself to say Steve Smith is bloody good, and I want to get the better of him. And what better in life than you going one-on-one against someone who's excellent at what he does? That is the blessing I've been given. So for me, I was just thinking, how can I keep this guy under check? He's really good. He plays spin really well. And on the 2018 tour that we went to Australia, we won that series. But there was a lot of talk about the fact that Steve Smith wasn't there in the squad, right? I think Steve Smith and David Warner were not in the squad, and that's probably why India won it. And we went on the tour the second time around. We got the better of Steve Smith. David Warner was still around. Virat Kohli wasn't there in that series. And we did go on to accomplish something special, and which is why I think there is an Instagram post where myself, Pujara and Jinx, I can't remember who else, we put up a post saying there is, and I also wrote down saying there is more meat to the Indian team than just a couple of people, right? And Virat, let's all make no mistake, is probably the torch bearer and was the torch bearer of the Test cricket team, and that's why a lot of people started to follow Test cricket as well. But a Test team cannot be just about one or two individuals, right? And a team that's built a legacy for over a decade. just means a lot more than individuals. I think we tend to forget and drive too much upon individuality, and that's why I love what Gautam talks, right? A lot of people end up, judging Gautam for what he's saying. We are all prisoners of our thoughts, right? And in many ways, his thoughts are his own, and you can't judge him for what he's saying. And he keeps on harping upon the fact that credit needs to be given to the team and not to individuals. Why does he say that?
Yesterday also he said that.
Well, yeah, and he's right. And I am, for one, vouching for that being inside the team. Sure, you have your fandom, you adore players, but we are getting into a culture where we are dividing the players from the outside.
Correct.
By talking amazingly about someone and demeaning someone else. Just for example, you're all people working in corporates. Look, tomorrow I can turn up and say amazing things about you, but I have no business talking bad things about Subhayan, right? Like I need to understand that maybe I don't know enough of him to say things of great pedigree or whatever it is. But I rate you, and that's where it ends. But we've got into this crazy culture of that hero and villain business.
So this whole Rohitian, Viratian nonsense that we see, and you write something about someone. I write something about Rohit Sharma. Just last week, Rohit and I met at the BKC and we had a little bit of food together. So I wrote saying it was good to see Rohit, and he looks lean, he looks fitter, and I left it at that. And the comments were like, oh, you will always say good things about Rohit, but not about Virat. Where the hell did Virat come into that post? That's where I feel social media trolling, and now you are an active part of social media. You respond to people. Do you think it's a problem?
I love the fact. I love these people, Bore, honestly, because I look at them every morning like, I love them because I look in the mirror and say, who are these guys, man? Who you really are? Because you must really have some agenda to be able to driving these sorts of narratives. I mean, truth be told, let me be very frank, and I won't want to name people in this, but this is some sort of a disease that's going on at this point of time, because a lot of times, I am an instanding player. I've played for a long time, and several of these opinions that come on social media through these fan armies have been heard by me before, firsthand. Like, there have been opinions in the past, like I've heard these opinions on a breakfast table or a lunch table, and those opinions are out through some other name. And I'm like, that's crazy, man. Either I'm listening to it or somebody's...
Are you telling me that the players themselves plant these opinions?
I'm not saying that, but it's scary. I'm saying, is there being espionage being done? So that's the only way these things come out. And then you're like, okay, see, look, transforming, I'm not saying that's what is happening, but I'm saying there is surely business schema involved in this, right? And because today every player himself is an entrepreneur, right? And pushing these opinions on the outside does surely push your brand value or your PR skills or whatever it is. And I'm all for that. Have your fan army, even put your opinions outside, no problems. But to talk ill of another cricketer is something that I would never do, and I would never venture or go down that path. And even, look, for me, where did all this begin, Boria? You've been in the media fraternity for a long time. Where did this all begin? When we started creating this whole narratives around players, and we started painting a very superhero sort of a culture, when we started painting a very cinematic culture, is when all this started. Who even talks about cricket? Nobody speaks about cricket. There was this crazy thing that happened some time ago where I was talking about, I put a Twitter thread on what Shubman was doing to get out in a certain fashion. Now, if I read that piece, it's a highly informative piece on what's happening. For me, it is the what, the why, and never the who. Because I am a servant of the game. I am a prisoner to the game. I don't care two hoots about who the person is. And very similarly, they started becoming a comparison, why only about Shubman or not somebody else? I am like, dude, do you even follow what I do? Do you even know that this is how I construct everything that I see? There has been something on Rachin, there has been something that I did on Sanju, there's been something that I've spoken about, even about Virat for that matter. The point here is, we took the game away from the essence or the centerpiece, and we made it about the who. And that's when the problem began. Recently, that 281 of Lakshman and the Great Eden Test centenary happened, and I saw centenary is the wrong thing. I think it's celebration. 25 years, yeah. And there was somebody who wrote about how Lakshman was so under-celebrated, right? He was not celebrated enough. And why? Because when it came to Lakshman, it was about India's win and not about him. There are some fabulous innings that he's played, and they never made it about Lakshman the batter or the person, because he's just a simple person from Hyderabad. And there is not enough superhero value stories in that. And that's sad, you know. If Stephen Smith had been born in India, there might have been a lot more around the brand of antiques that he does. But you would never hear about somebody like Michael Bevan, right? For example, he was born in India. You would never make it about him. It's just under the radar, just does his job. But as cricketers, when you're young, we were always taught to make the game as the prima facie. But now I'm worried that cricketers that are taking up the sport are making the brand as a prima facie value. And that's a bit of a question mark for me.
Just an extension to that, since you have been in that dressing room not a long while ago, do these talks trickle down to within the players as well? Like if I see a story of in a leading newspaper that Virat and Rohit are having a rift, or this player his family is being trolled because or abused because of certain fan base, do players when they meet, does it create a difference within the players? What do you think?
Look, I do not have bare thread evidence to talk about all these things, right? Like even when I said there have been a couple of instances where I've seen people's opinions transpire into social media, and that's where I would put it. For all you know, it could transpire or trickle down. Maybe the player has spoken about it to 10 other people, and maybe somebody has taken it upon them to trickle it down to social media, and that's very understandable. But when I am reading something, right? I'm reading something on let's say on Twitter or something, and somebody has made a random post, and that has been a trend, or you get mentioned about 100 times, saying this player has a problem with this player and that's why he's not playing. If I read it 10 times, as somebody who has a bit of grey hair and also understands a little bit and in your language overthinks, I will think, okay, maybe there is something here. And when I look at that player next day in the dressing room, I'll be thinking, okay, what are you thinking of me? And it's very natural, right? And people who do not have the maturity to say, okay, it's all done here. I need to just go and bowl or I need to get my runs. And that's the only way I stay in the team. It's different. But if it's going to affect someone, and if it's going to make them overthink, it's going to happen, right? And it's only human psyche and nature for people to think like that.
Especially if you are an opening partner or a bowling partner, you are bowling from the different end, but you know the social media differences are there.
Look, I wouldn't take it that far. I learned to deal with this the way I knew to learn. I knew how to deal with it. Like again, I'll go to the part of thinking, right? Why did I think? Because I knew nobody had my back. That's just my journey. And I keep on saying that because my journey is very dear to me. I made peace with the fact it's about me and it's about only me. Because I needed to be Ashwin +1 tomorrow if I needed to play for the Indian team. And I picked up the bat and the ball when I was 8 years old, wanting to be an Indian cricketer. Why the hell would I not turn every page in my book to want to be the best? And the day I decided that I couldn't or I didn't have the motivation to be Ashwin +1 the next day, I quit the game. And that was me being honest to the game and being honest to myself. And that's where it ends. And nobody has the business, I want to avoid that word in between, to judge me for what I did or how I went about doing my business in the game. Because it's my journey and it's dear to me.
Tell me something. I mean, when I see your career, so many wins in red ball, so many series wins, are you worried about India's red ball cricket? Are you worried about the fact that we are producing these kind of wickets or whatever? Because when I see white ball, I feel, no, white ball, tremendous talent, the funnel is so good, etc. So two parts. You have made this point about the 50-over game. After 2027, when some people retire, Rohit, Virat, whatever, are you worried about that? And are you worried about India's red ball? If so, what are your solutions for red ball cricket?
Look, I think we spoke a lot about social media, and with all the fandom and the fan armies, I'm almost ready to know that people are going to have a spin on everything that I'm saying. But I want to take a couple of minutes to harp upon Rohit, and we're all young cricketers who matured over time, grew together literally. And there was a point in time where we played 10, 12 months of cricket together. Happened. But when these things are percolating outside, I find it very funny. The retirement of Virat, Rohit or whoever, how many other people that went by, has had a lot of stories over the last 2 decades about how they've built their careers. You came in, you started performing, then there were doubts, then you had to counter those doubts, then you had to perform differently, win games for your country, then be dropped, then be come back. Of course, with Virat dropping didn't happen, with Rohit it happened with me, with Pujara it happened. But the constant desire to put India on a test cricketing map was never once mistaken. None of us had doubt about that. We wanted to be an amazingly good touring side, win across borders, do really well for the country. I'm a little concerned, like I said in the previous one, about this troubleshooting mechanism and hard-working, tough-working, I would say tough-working money. When you're playing test cricket, at the end of the day, you play 5 days, and that's when your bill is paid, right? You play 5 days to get across the board, across the line, and when your money is paid. I am worrying for those sort of cricketers to be able to come through the system. I do have a concern, and not even with the batting. I think batting will look to take care of itself. You spoke about white ball cricket. The pedigree of white ball batters that we are having in lineup is just something else. In fact, I have no doubt that India will go on to win quite a few white ball trophies over the next decade. That will be from our batting. But what next after Bumrah? When Bumrah is a defining point in that white ball side, what next after Bumrah? I'm worried bowling is not as attractive as batting is. And kids might not take up the sport for those reasons. And when I say sport, I think bowling and batting are separate sports. Bowling as a sport is not attractive enough. It looks like you're just doing yet another job where you're entertaining people by giving those sixes. So who really would want to think about bowling as something that will enable us to win tournaments or series?
Fantastic line, huh? Fantastic line. I mean, that's Ravichandran.
But I was there in your academy in Chennai in 2023 World Cup, and I interacted with a few kids there, and they said that you are hands-on with them. Whenever you find time within your schedule, you try and go there and have that interaction. You are grooming the next gen cricketers, I can say that. Talking about Bumrah and linking that question to him, how do you think we can find the next Bumrah? Because, or the next Siraj, or the next Shami for that matter? Because building a pace battery, yes, you have a few bowlers who are working at the NCA, but at the same time to protect them and allow them to play freely in test format, how do you bring that culture in Indian cricket now?
Hard, yeah. I mean, it's one thing to put the blame squarely on players and say they're not playing all formats, they don't. It's just only natural. I'm giving you an option to play 3 months of cricket through the summer to earn your paycheck, vis-a-vis asking you to bowl 20 overs a day under the searing hot sun to be able to carry the torch forward for your nation.
1 lakh for player of the tournament in Ranji Trophy, 1 lakh for the catch in an IPL
Look,
match.
I think, to be honest with you, the BCCI has done a phenomenal job in terms of trying to revise the pay structure even at domestic level. You have, which country boasts of having so many first-class teams? Your question can be answered straight away. India will be much better than a lot of other countries in test cricket because of the pure sample size of players. We've got so many players, and you will be able to continuously produce someone. If A is not there, B will come. B is not there, C will come. But the longevity of players is definitely going to get struck down. I have no doubts about it. And for me, every day, just giving you a few names, every day I look at someone like a Khalil Ahmed, right, who's playing for CSK this year. I think to myself, why the hell is this guy not opening our bowling in test cricket in Australia or England? He must be, by all means, right? He's got everything going for him. Why wouldn't he do that? And you can ask such several questions of such players playing domestic cricket. And a lot of these cricketers playing Ranji Trophy, especially the fast bowlers, right? They get into a mode. I love what BCCI did with splitting out red ball cricket this year. They split it up. One of the great reasons that I would recommend that forever is players can manage their injuries better. Fast bowlers from bowling 135, 140 come down to bowling 120s. Because it's just longevity for them. You play an entire first-class season. It gives you sustainability. It gives you food on your plate. Why would I bowl 140, risk myself for injuries, right? And the last part of the puzzle is to be able to create a red ball only contract for first-class cricketers. Don't meet out a contract for people who are playing Vijay Hazare and Syed Mushtaq Ali, because if you do that, there is anyway money coming through your state-sponsored T20 leagues. Then you've got the ability to play the IPL. So there is a lot more going for the white ball cricketers. Meet out contracts and make it mandatory for all 37 teams to give out contracts, 37 or 36, whatever. Forgive me, pardon my ignorance on the exact number, but give them contracts here. Give them central contracts. Make them make them, accountable to the state association and go through and vet these contracts. In many ways, I think state cricket associations are extremely crucial in retaining the quality of your cricketers going forward. And some sort of methods and processes need to be put in place for even that.
Two-part question. One, you speak extremely well. You have pedigree. You are articulate. Why not choose commentary or anything like that? Rather shun that and get into digital media, create a niche. That was the tougher road. You've even called, we've had this discussion, by the way, we were sitting and having food in Paris when Ashwin calls and says, are you going to cover the next Asian Games and the next Olympic Games? And I'm like, yeah, what happened? He said, I'll also come with you and cover it. So to branch out into Olympic sport, for example, what prompted that? Or what prompted to set up your own digital platform and not get into conventional commentary? Number two, Shubhayan just mentioned about your academy. You think the game, you're a servant of the game. Will you coach? Will you coach state teams? Will you want to coach the national team? Is that something that you will nurture over a period of time?
I don't know how coaching actually functions, how people look at it. See, there is this coaching certification program that people do undertake, right? I've seen coaching manuals every day. I mean, I've read coaching manuals in 2012. I've taken manuals. I have copies of manuals to go through it. You know why? I didn't start coaching now. I've been coaching since the day I was a player, a professional player. My academy started in 2012 officially. Before that, in 2010, I initiated my academy. The reason I coached was because it gave me great avenues to learn myself. Because sometimes a young child will ask you questions that will throw questions in your head. And you need to find solutions. So my solution-driven approach to my own game came from the fact that I was coaching. Teaching is one single profession that will take you to a point of excellence and it's a point of no return, right? And even I've been training a child from his age of 7 from the COVID break, and I used to teach online, and I've continued to coach that guy, and he's 13 now. He's played some under 14 city cricket and all that, but the questions he used to ask really initiated some great questions in my head to be able to put it into use into my own game. So for me, coaching or coaching certification is not in a position at this point of time where it says, Boria, look, I have a very simple question to ask you. Have you ever seen math teachers from school or science teachers from school go on and have a progression into getting into any sort of scientific research or positions in the NASA?
Well, it's about journalism also. You don't need to do sports journalism courses to come and be a sports journalist.
Exactly. But these teachers have gone through an entire process of studying in school, going to a college, and then doing their certification in teaching. Is that right? Have I got it right? Likewise, cricket coaching also needs to have a certain base, a base pedigree of saying you need to have done so many years of coaching at a grassroots level, and then you need to have a certification, and then there must be a question. I don't think coaching certification courses have that sort of progression for anybody to go through the yards. Sure, I think when it comes to, let's say, a Gautam or when it comes to a Ravi Bhai, their experience of having played the game at an elite level is good enough for them to be able to manage a team at an elite level.
So you have that as well. That's why my question. Would you want to do that? Would you want to give it back in that way, or are you going to be in the media space?
Honestly speaking, I do things that are leading me to happiness. You asked, the second part of the question is where my answer lies. You asked me why I did it through the digital. I might end up doing commentary, but again, on my terms is what I would like to reiterate. It's very easy for me to throw my hand up and say, we've made it about celebrities and not made it about the game itself, right? I have also said that. But what do I do about it? My small little bit of doing it on digital media or social media is talking about the game and not talking about the person. I try and, in my own little space, try and educate people about the game and not about the person. I am not giving you clickbaity. Look, I read after India won the T20 World Cup, right? I would have loved to read and see pieces on how they chiseled that World Cup down over the last 12 months. When Abhishek Sharma has been going on all guns blazing for the last 18 months, we had it in us to talk about him being left out of the side in this World Cup, right? We all did that. And why are we doing it? Because it's about people, right? We are talking about the who. We want Sanju Samson to get into the side, or X or Y or Z to get into the side, such that we made no bones of a player who's been on blazing form for the last 18 months. And in fact, we made him double guess his own thoughts. is his own skills. We are doing it without our own knowledge because it's going to reach Abhishek Sharma. The reason he became tentative was because he knows there is noise around it. Now, if we spoke only about why Abhishek Sharma is not scoring those runs, he himself might have picked up on something and done something amazing in that World Cup. But eventually he got a 50 in the final. Very happy for him. So my little bit is why I have started my YouTube channel and continue to do so. When I go to bed, I'm at least happy that I've done something meaningful for the game that's given me everything.
Sure, two players, although you don't like to talk about individuality, but you have worked with them. Two players, two World Cup winners this time, Sanju Samson and Vaibhav Suryavanshi. Sanju Samson's career, you know, there have been...
Sorry, I forgot that crazy bit. Like, I would have loved to see why India won because of the 18-month, no, not all, 18-month window they had. What all did Gautam do? What all did Surya Kumar and Gautam come together and do? I would have loved to see the intriguing pieces. But I ended up seeing things like, okay, at the end of, see, Sanju is a very dear friend. But I saw pieces on social media about how he came back to practice 3 days later after a World Cup win. Hello, we are cricketers. I don't want to see pieces like that. And then I'm seeing pieces about how somebody, Shivam Dubey traveled by train, right? I don't want to read pieces like that. We are, why? I have traveled by train. Everybody's traveled by train.
What's the big deal of traveling by train?
Exactly.
Damn it, whole country travels by train.
I would love for us to go over the next decade for international cricketers to be able to go to the chai wala dukan and have chai with the people here. Correct. In fact, we've forgotten that life's joys are in very small moments.
We are assuming that Shivam Dubey or X or Y, not Shivam Dubey per se, can't travel by train because there is a certain difference in class. Come on.
Look, let me take it further, right? We've revamped the rail system in India.
So the hockey
it's amazing,
player,
right?
The hockey player can travel by train, a tennis player can travel by train, a
No,
footballer
Bhurya,
can travel, not a cricketer.
You've forgotten. The rail system has come to a place where it's quite amazing. My family travels by train every time to Bangalore. In fact, I wore a mask and came back from Dindukal in the TNPL. Nobody bothered me. Why should anybody think that it is a hassle to travel by train such that it becomes a big issue? The rail system has been revamped so well by our government that we must be happy. Tomorrow, there is, and I'm so happy Sanju trained 3 days after practice because 3 days after the World Cup win, because it's showing another youngster that after my World Cup win, I shouldn't be sitting on my haunches. Great. And that must just be an example for people to watch and learn. Yeah? But when we start doing intriguing pieces on that, I'm a little concerned. What message are we passing on to the next generation?
I'll send you a couple of links of how Abhishek Sharma, you know, took a leaf out of David Miller's book and cracked his first half century in the T20.
Yeah, I haven't read, sorry.
I'll definitely send you that link. But I was talking about Sanju Samson. You know, there has been a tag associated with him throughout his career. That is inconsistent. He starts well, but his form step. And he was talking about it in the press conference as well after he scored 3 80s on the trot. That, you know, I wanted to shed that thought. I wanted to shed that tag. I have that, you know, belief within me that, you know, I can do it. I can do it, although there are doubts. Sanju Samson, the character, when he does well, or when he goes through that slump, because you have seen in close quarters. And also about Vaibhav Suryavanshi, the next gen talents that are coming in right now and the way they are taking the world by storm.
Look, the way they played the final of the Under-19 World Cup was a huge message for all of us watching the sport as to what we can expect from the next generation. They are not going to defend and play through tough phases. They are going to just go smack bang. And the problem with going smack bang is one that we can't afford to watch it from a tentative perspective. That we can't do. But the beauty of playing like that is it throws the opposition so far back that it's very, very tough to match up with that sort of brutal hitting and pressure-free cricket. If you looked at how England chased it, that was no different. So we are seeing a white ball landscape that's completely new. And we have to come to terms with the fact that this is how these kids are going to play and we have to go wow over it. Rather than saying, okay, this is not how we played. And that was very refreshing to watch, be it him, be it Ayush Matre, be it whoever it is. It's so refreshing to watch. And I had no doubts in my mind over the last decade that T20 cricket had to be played this way. And I'm so happy that India is playing T20 cricket like this. In India, it's often at 49 or 45, you're supposed to take 5 singles. If you didn't, your coach is going to tell you, "Arey kya kiya, 50 chhod diya." And when Sanju Samson is getting out on 89, 97 or 93, I'm so happy. I'm so happy he's not taking that bunt to mid-wicket and point to get to his 100. And he made no bones of it to come out and say, I will keep taking those risks. Why is he taking those risks? Let's understand that. Because that one risk that he's not taken could well be the difference between you being in a final and not being in a final. He could have got to 100. He was 89 in the semi-final against England. But he ended up taking chances. It's one hit, and England lost by one hit. Let's not forget that. And we have to, in some way or the other, realize that T20 is answer for football. Your defenders will not get the front page because they don't score. Your bowlers will not get the front page because they're defending. And Bumrah's defensive 17th over was spoken about because he is Bumrah. But nobody spoke about Hardik's 19th over. The first ball goes for a 6 and Hardik nailed 5 Yorkers after that. That's incredible. Because Hardik, you always remembered him and stonking those balls for 6s, right? But you can't seem to find the fascination in him coming back from that 6 to bowl those 5 balls. Tough. A batter is batting on 90. He's nailed you for a 6 and that didn't miss by much. But he's had it in him to nail those 5 Yorkers, which is amazing. So I would love for these things to be spoken about. Like you said about Sanju, self-doubts are created by people on the outside.
How do you rate Gautam? You mentioned Gautam saying, this whole emphasis on team. But when you look back at the 2 years, he too has been castigated, trolled, saying favoritism, you've dropped Rohit and Virat, you've done politics against them and all that. But when you look at the impact, you won the Champions Trophy, you won the Asia Cup, you won the World Cup. How do you assess him?
Boria, if somebody has to have angst against Gautam, it's me. Right? I come out on his second tour or third tour when he's been the coach. And I'd come out of...
Can I ask you that then? Let me ask you. I've not asked you because you and I were supposed to meet in Australia, if you remember. I had said I was coming on the 22nd and we were supposed to meet in Melbourne. That retirement came as a shock to me. So 2 parts. You assess Gautam and say, Perth or wherever, there were catches dropped off your bowling. That backpedaling catch was dropped. Key moment in that game, you remember? You were bowling good enough for me to continue for India.
I bowled a couple of days ago. I thought I bowled pretty well in US.
Exactly. Forget US, that tour. Yeah. But my point is, how can you detach in one day? How are you telling us that, I took the call, forget? Were you not bitter? Were you not angry? Were you not frustrated? 537 wickets. This is not fair. And why would you not stay on with the team for 10 more days? Why did you have to come back?
Look, I have this conversation with my parents also. Whenever my dad's a huge well-wisher, right? And he might have some angst from the outside, right? And I think when I came back as well, he said something in the media. I've consistently told him over the last 20 years, do not talk ill of another player when I'm there in the house. And we fought over these things, right? And I have. And for a dad to talk like that is completely justified because it's not just my dream. He's lived his dream through me. So I can understand, but I keep telling him, do not talk ill of another player. The reason I say that is he's got a job to do and he's got his thinking. Gautam, the coach, has got a job to do. For in many ways, even if he thought that I must move on or Virat must move on or Rohit must move on, it's okay, it's fine. Because he has a job to do. And at that particular instance, if I felt bitter about it, that's also okay. Because it's my emotion. But if you detach yourself away from that, it's clear to me that he's got a job to do and maybe I do not have a future in his regime. But I have always wanted to shed ego, first thing in my life. And I'm still in the process of shedding ego. We all are human beings, it comes to us. But if you do away and detach yourself away from the I, things do make sense. Sometimes, because of the adulation we get in this country, we do end up thinking that we are invincible, which is not the case.
Lovely. Shubha, last question.
Ashbhai, I would like to, I had this question in my mind and I can't stop myself from asking this. Akash Chopra was here a couple of sessions back and he was talking about, we have not moved on from Virat Kohli's test retirement. Whenever we see the chart of highest run scorers, we don't see Virat Kohli there, 10,000 runs not completed. As someone who has promoted test cricket to the hilt from your batch, who has led you also, do you feel, Virat's 10,000 runs is a missing thing that could have been completed?
And I don't think I should have got to 619 wickets. Why would I think like that? I don't. Look, there have been several people who've told me that you could have got to 600 wickets, right?
Even I did.
Well, it's okay. What's the big deal? It's not. It doesn't make any sense to me. And if I don't know what Virat thinks of this, but if he doesn't get to 10,000 marks and it's not there on the chart, does Virat come low in valuation for me? No. I think Virat is a phenomenal servant of the game. It doesn't change what Virat has done for this country, or for that matter, what Rohit has done. These numbers are just blown out of proportion. Yeah, sometimes. Why? I mean, it's your sense of identity. Like I said before, the sense of you wanting to be invincible for the test of time. It's never going to happen. We are all, our timestamp living in this planet is so limited. We are all born and then we are gone. Yeah. So does Don Bradman come and bother about how his records have been broken? No, he can't. He doesn't have the time. He can't now. And similarly, I think if you come to the fact, COVID was such an eye-opener. So many people that you loved and lived with didn't exist after that. If that sort of a pandemic doesn't dawn upon any sort of sense into your head, what else will? And why are we stuck? Again, it is the whole sellability bit, right? If we can sell the game, it's again, if we can sell the game in an attractive fashion, which I firmly believe we can, right? If in England, Nasser Hussain and Michael Atherton are able to sell the game, why can't we? It's just us trying to simplify it to the mass audience, right? The inability of us to be able to sell it to the mass audience is why we are selling them like how a Bollywood celebrity should be sold. Like, these are all things that can be done with the way that people understand the game. And believe you me, the next generation are not like what we saw. They do understand, but they need they can only be sold things in a very short span of time. We need to find a way to sell it to them, and they are not going to buy the celebrity culture in the future. I can vouch for it.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic session. You know, with Ashwin, you can keep going. You can keep going because these conversations don't end. We've kind of personally discussed and debated. We've had these conversations. Two very special people to come and do the felicitation. Ashwin waved to Atul. I will never forget sitting in Atul's room in Colombo. Ashwin comes and we keep debating cricket. That's when we got really close, thanks to him. Ladies and gentlemen, two people. And he used the word wow multiple times. So this is a session that was supported by AGS Federal Life Insurance and Wow Momo. Interesting. So Atul Srivastav and Murli Krishnan, please, to come up and felicitate Ravichandran Ashwin. And Minu, I know you've worked with Ashwin. Can I please have you on stage as well? That's why I said Atul and Ashwin, it's a special bond. Samne. And by the way, that ball, Murli, you can show Ash that. That's a special ball that has been crafted for Ravichandran Ashwin. Atul bhai, aap is side aa jao, so that the photograph can, yeah, that's nice. Traitor rekha dao Murli, so that's lovely. Yeah. To come from New York and do the session, ladies and gentlemen.